Hello, friends, and welcome to The Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you probably already know that this is my mini-series in which I am diving into a very particular and amazing deck called the Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler. And it is a tarot deck that is very different from my well-accustomed Golden Dawn-based decks, and even different from the way I usually read Marseille decks. Although it is a little closer to a TDM, a Tarot de Marseille system, because this is a continental tarot system. It's a deck that is created from a compilation of study and synthesis of study from the continental tarot. And so it's different from, although adjacent to, the Golden Dawn decks. For example, the ones that I'm used to are the Smith-Waite deck, the RWS, the Harris-Crowley, the Thoth deck, for example. So what do I do? After this long preamble, what do I do every day in this mini-series? I pull a card from the Tarot of the Holy Light. And I acknowledge the meanings, the associations I have from my work with Golden Dawn-based decks. And I try to disassociate them. I try to detangle them as much as I can. Sometimes I can't, but I try. And then what I do is I lean into my knowledge of RWS decks, and I use the Light Seers Tarot to help me unpack the card that I pulled from the Tarot of the Holy Light. So I pull three cards, three-card spread. The first card is the significance of the daily draw. The second card is the obstacle to that significance. And the third is the advice. Yeah, significance, obstacle, advice, three-card spread. And then I sit with that. And I live my life for that day. And then at the end of the day, I pick up the book for the Tarot of the Holy Light. And I read the entry, the explanation as intended by the creator. And I, again, reflect on my day and how the card revealed itself to me. The meanings revealed themselves for me during the day. And that's been my process so far. And today as well. So, the card that I pulled for today was the Knight of Wands reversed. Now, when I think of the Knight of Wands in decks that I'm more familiar with, I think of the knight charging into action. I think of the passionate one, the one ready and excited for an adventure. I think of the one who's ready and excited perhaps to get laid even. I mean, there's a sexual element to the Knight of Wands as well. When I think of the Knight of Wands reversed in an RWS deck, for example, a Smith-Waite deck, I think of one who is hot-headed. Yeah, the one who flies off the handle at a moment's notice, the one with a quick temper. And so, if you know me, you probably know that while I am generally, I also have a temper. I have a pretty intense temper sometimes. And I think that could be part of my sun sign being Leo. But when I'm triggered, I get triggered. And sometimes I'm more triggerable than others. And when I pulled this card in reverse, I thought, whoa, Derek, be careful. This could be a day of triggers for you. So, to be sure, I mean, what do we see in this card upright? We see the salamander, the fire sign. This is total fire sign. We've got a sun beneath him. This is the card of Sagittarius, a mutable fire sign. I'm a fire sign, Leo. This is another fire sign, the mutable one. I'm fixed. This is mutable. But we got this guy, a kind of attractive guy, a very attractive guy, with a lot of fire. There's a firing brand of wand in one hand. There's a fiery pot in another. There's a sun above. There's a sun below. We've got a lot of passion here. So, in reverse, I thought, I wouldn't be surprised if my understanding of this card was very similar to the intended meaning for this card. I mean, we've also got the symbol for fire right above the guy's head. Do you see the triangle up there? So I pulled my 3 cards from the Light Seers Tarot, and let me show you them right now. When I got these cards, these 3 cards, I was not only not surprised, I felt like I had been, that my reading of the Knight of Wands reversed had been confirmed in a way. So, why do I think that? Well, you saw that the cards in order were the 4 of Cups, the Emperor, and the 8 of Cups. So, the significance of the Knight of Wands reversed for me was the 4 of Cups. And what do we see here? We see a person not so happy, right? This is usually the card of ennui, of disappointment. Those are some key words, right? The figure is seated. There are these 3 cups here that are perfectly fine in this card. In the Rider-Waite-Smith, in Pamela Coleman's art, for example, we see a figure cross-legged, seated, leaning against a tree. There are 3 cups in front of the figure, looking very, very male, looking at these cups and looking very disgruntled, unsatisfied. And there's this hand holding this cup, this spiritual hand holding this bright shining cup off to the side, and the guy seated does not see it. Yeah, so it's like there are these things in front of him that could possibly be satisfying, but the guy's not satisfied. And there's something even perhaps better right beside him, and he's not paying any attention to it. He's just not open. He's just sitting there in his dissatisfaction, in his ennui. And I get that from this in a female sense, yeah? There's this female presenting figure. She's seated on the ground. Her gaze is looking off to the side. There are these 3 cups right beside her that they look fine to me, but apparently she's not all that happy with them. And right beside her, on the opposite side of where her gaze is going, there's this other cup radiating this rainbow of light, and she's just not paying attention to it. And it's this kind of perhaps potential situation where I could get triggered, I think. I'm not seeing the pot of gold, whatever, this radiant cup of light, and I'm looking at all of this dissatisfaction to me, and I get disappointed, dissatisfied, and I get into that stance of this should not be, and temper flares. When I was young, when I was a child, it would have been a temper tantrum, but hopefully I don't go into, well, I do sometimes. Okay, full disclosure, especially when I was trying to quit smoking, especially, but still, I have had times as an adult where I've had a temper tantrum, not in front of other people, but in private. Full disclosure. That's what you're here for, right? So, but I wasn't expecting temper tantrum, but I was expecting flares of temper, of indignation perhaps, or no, this shouldn't be like this. And so the obstacle was the emperor. Makes total sense, right? The emperor, the one who needs to be in control, the one who needs to have everything work out the way that they have planned them to be, that this is right and this is the way it should be, and if it's not this way, it's wrong. And yeah, that rigid, potential dictatorial stance is what could bring this into a flash of temper. Makes absolute sense, doesn't it? And so the advice for me was walk away. Just let it be. Now, it's interesting, in this particular drawing of the 8 of Cups, let me bring it closer to the camera. Now, you see the woman, she looks like a woman to me, is walking away from the darkness to the light. good thing, very common idea or concept for the Eight of Cups, leaving something behind and going off to find some light. But do you notice what she's walking away from? In this one cup, instead of 8 cups, there's 1 cup here. And in this 1 cup, there's fire. She's like, there are 2 ways to read this. One, she's left her passions or that thing, that fiery thing that has been troubling and is walking away from it. Or she may have done one of those burning rituals where she's put all of the stuff that she is disappointed with in this cup and has set it aflame and is walking away from it. Could be both, either, whatever. But that seems like good advice for someone like me who might get triggered and feel those flashes of temper popping, bursting into flame like little fireworks. Fireworks, right? So, before I tell you about my day, let me read from the book. Because this is, again, confirmation, I believe. Maybe you'll think differently. I believe this was confirmation. So, first let's look at the upright version of the Knight of Wands. This is Sagittarius, right? A mutable fire sign. The Knight of Wands is a rabble-rouser and fire starter, a feisty and easily provoked character that bursts into flames first and asks questions later. Kind of like, who's the character from the Fantastic Four? Is it just Flame or the Human Torch or something like that? It kind of reminds me of him. This knight is not shy about how much he enjoys a fight. He also experiences some reluctance to embrace diplomatic solutions, even when they are truly called for. In his own view, he's trying to help, rescuing the world from its natural chaotic state by imposing his sense of order on the space around him. So actually, this to me feels a little bit more like my understanding of the Knight reversed. But there's still that potential in the upright Knight of Wands, I believe. Let's keep going. So the Knight shows more than one face because his mood swings are so dynamic and wide-ranging. When he's presenting his benevolent aspect, see, there is a benevolent aspect to this card upright. He's magnetic, almost angelic, radiating light and goodwill for the whole creation and making everything seem possible. Now, that's the way I see a lot of the Knight of Wands upright in the RWS systems. In his performer mode, again, a passionate performer, right? He can strike any number of attractive poses, charming his audience with sincerity and heart. That's what I see the upright Knight of Wands as being. The Wand Knight's fearlessness and willingness to confront can certainly be a blessing too. And when he's defending threatened treasures or interfering with dark forces. In the tradition of natural warriors everywhere, the Knight of Wands is the one who will volunteer to enter the cave of the dragon and confront it on its own home turf. He does this just to test himself. But if he saves the village in the process, so much the better. So a lot of this is still about him, but in this being about him or her or them, there's this also radiation of light and power that spreads on those around him, her, or them in the best aspect of this card. So that was the card upright. Reversed. When the Knight appears reversed, righteous indignation comes boiling out unchecked, and his more temperamental side starts chewing up the landscape. There is irrationality to his inflamed persona that expands all out of proportion to the infraction it's trying to address. He may have a legitimate point that deserves to be acknowledged, But it can't be resolved because he's so over the top with indignation and accusations. Sounds a lot like me sometimes. Frankly, it does sound a lot like me sometimes. The knight's vices are bossiness, paranoia, no, not so much, and exaggeration to the point of hysteria sometimes. Once he gets on a tear, it's hard to stop him until he flames out and drops from the sky like a burned out husk. Sometimes. Then he's miserable and mortified because, of course, the whole debacle was preventable in the first place. Always. Always. Yes, always. When I go into that Knight of Wands reversed persona, always that. He's a closet perfectionist, is massively competitive, and secretly fears that he's not measuring up. Yes, and yes. So, those are characteristics that are me. And I did not read that before I lived my day today, but I know those things about myself. And now that I'm of an age, I am usually a little bit more circumspect about when I go off, but there are times when when I'm caught off guard, when I am not able to feel the trigger when it's happening, and it goes out of, not as much out of control as it might have been when I was 20, but it still expresses itself quicker than I can bring it back. Like the Human Torch. I think that is his name. The Human Torch can sometimes burst into flame before he can bring it back. Or the Firestarter. Yeah, do you remember the movie The Firestarter? Drew Barrymore, little Drew Barrymore. She has this amazing power, and the way she thought she would control it was by bringing it back, or directing it into something else. So there are times when I feel I haven't noticed that I've been triggered, and it starts getting out, and before I can get a hold of it and bring it back to redirect it. So I'm like a little fire starter sometimes. So that makes sense, especially considering these cards that I got from the Light Seers. Makes absolute sense, right? Dissatisfaction leads to this need to control, and the advice, walk away. Direct it somewhere safe and walk away. So let me tell you my day. Actually, it wasn't so bad. I'm building up to this dramatic point that's probably not going to come. So let me tell you. Today was interesting, very interesting. I met somebody here at the hospital hotel in a very similar situation as I am. I'm here because of my mother. He's here because of his wife. We were both on cruises. He got here much earlier than I. He's been here much longer than I. He and his wife have been here much longer than I. His wife is in the hospital, the same hospital that my mom is in, the floor above my mother, apparently, as things turned out. And I think they're planning on leaving on Monday. But this is the first time we actually talk to each other in the morning and in the evening. And we've developed a bit of a friendship. Our ages are not that different. I think he thinks I'm younger than him, but he's actually younger than me. Maybe about 4 years, I think, I didn't actually ask his birth date, but hearing him speak about things and how old he was when these things happened, calculated he's probably about 4 years younger than me. So yeah, we interacted, and he acknowledged that I was a vent to him. He hasn't had much of an opportunity to speak to a person face to face right in front of him. I mean, he's got people back at home. He's from London. No, he's from England. He's from Lincolnshire in England. So he's got people back there that he talks to, sir, of course, and he told me about that. But there's nobody here in this city that he has to talk to and vent and get things off of his chest. And so talking to me made him feel more comfortable. And talking to him made me feel more comfortable too, up to a point. I also am a little bit of an introvert, believe it or not. And after like an hour of talking, I get tired. Not because I don't like talking to him, but it just drains me after a while. So I met this guy, talked to him. It was fun, attractive but straight. So then I went to the hospital. And at the hospital, I talked to okay. So at the hospital, my mom's doing better, overall much better. Had a moment, well, to her it probably wasn't a moment. It was probably a long time. It was probably more like 20 minutes or so of intense indigestion, a little bit of vomiting, and that scared her a lot. That really did scare her. And it scared her because she really wants to get home, and she was afraid that this would delay getting home more than she wants. Also, it scared her because of her dementia, and so her time frame is distorted, and this sudden discomfort and not knowing why she's uncomfortable, and this feeling that she needed to eat and yet she can't eat, and she vomits. This is all very confusing and distressing for her. I mean, her dementia is not serious, very, very mild dementia at this point, but still, it was hard for her and hard on me as well, because I needed to get her taken care of. I also needed to get down to get lunch, or else I wouldn't have lunch. So there was that period of time. But except for that, my mom was really much better today. She got up all on her own. I know you're thinking, yeah, so. But no, this is a big thing. She got up out of bed on her own. She walked to her walker all on her own. She moved the walker to the bathroom all on her own. She opened the door. She got in. She did her thing. She got out. She was able to do all of that all on her own in one fluid motion. Unfortunate choice of words when talking about going to the bathroom, but she was able to do all of that without getting tired and having to sit down or needing help with any parts of that process. So that was wonderful. She spent a lot more time sitting up today, talking, which wasn't a little not so wonderful for me in some aspects, but we'll get to that in a moment. But no, her condition looks really, really good. She looks like she's improved. She didn't need oxygen today. We tested her oxygen, and I also tested her oxygen levels separately because I like to monitor that. And so her oxygen levels were good even without having the tube in her nose. She didn't have the tube in her nose all during the day at all. So all of those things are wonderful, wonderful signs. The doctor was saying she might be able to leave on Monday, but then the insurance agency called and said, no, the best time for her to leave is going to be Wednesday. Didn't make my mom happy, but we've got a date and we've got a time, which is wonderful. All this is wonderful stuff, right? And I'm comfortable here in this hotel. The cost is concerning to me, and I know that insurance is going to pay for it, but all of those things are, in the back of my head. But still, I'm okay. I'm here, and I enjoy being here in a way. I mean, I would have enjoyed doing other things more, but this is fine. This is wonderful. And I get to do this. I have the free time to do this without much stress. So all of this is good stuff too. However, because my mom is more alert, she latched on. Now, I don't know if you know people with dementia at all, but sometimes they latch on to things and they analyze them, in a very peculiar way, and they're able to store some information in parts of their brains and access it, but it's not always accurate information. Not always. Time lines and time frames are also distorted, but that's another story entirely. So, my mom, okay, now this is me in retrospect trying to piece together what's going on in my mom's head. I think my mother saw me filling out insurance forms. And she saw me filling out those and struggling with these forms. And it was interesting because as I was struggling with these forms, out of the corner of in my peripheral vision and in my peripheral brain space, my peripheral bandwidth, I noticed that my mother wasn't really saying anything, but was kind of observing me in a way, but keeping quiet, not like I don't know. I felt something different about her attention to what was going on. Now it seems that she was watching me fill out forms and trying to figure out what I was doing without talking to me about it, without asking me about it. And so what apparently she figured for herself was I was filling out applications for jobs in the United States, because that's what she wants me to have been doing. And so she had latched onto that, and she had stored that information in the back of her head without my knowing it until today. And so today she was talking about things that did not make any sense to me about when I moved back to the United States, and when and she said that those applications you were filling out and all of these things were like what started triggering me, because my mother's son Derek, not the my age Derek who knows his mother has dementia, but my mother's son Derek is still there and is got these, you're trying to guilt trip me. You're trying to make me feel guilty for not living in your house with you and taking care of you. You're trying to make me feel guilty for not being there for you every day, for living in a different country. You're trying to make me feel guilty for all those. And they weren't specifically formed thoughts, but they were feelings. They were they were the triggers that when you move to the United States, I'm not moving to the United States. Why do you think I'm moving to the United States? No, this is wrong. You're working yourself into a thought pattern that is going to backlash on both me and on you. And all of these thoughts came, all of these feelings came. They weren't formed thoughts, but in retrospect, I can put words to those feelings. And I felt myself being triggered a couple of times. Not a couple, many times. Not many. Several times. Several times. So, and it wasn't like a continuous thing. It was a little burst of dialogue that was triggering here. And then my remembering, okay, remember, you're sitting in disappointment. You're going to want to try and control things. Step away from the flames. Step away from the trigger. And so though there were a couple of times when a little bit of anger, I think, I know a little bit of anger colored my voice. It didn't actually flare up, I flame on. I didn't get there. I was prepared. And so I'm grateful for this, for that, I think. No, I know. I'm grateful for that, because I was prepared. I was prepared to be triggered. And because I was prepared to be triggered, when I noticed the triggers triggering, I was able to do something about it. Much better than I might otherwise have been. I don't know. Maybe I would have been okay anyways. But I think we got through the day well. I came back. I talked to my friend. His name is Simon. Just in case Simon of the Hermit's Cave is watching, hello. Not you, Simon, another Simon. So I think today was a good day, was a beneficial day. And I think that this helped me today. The rest of the conversation with my mom were just similar to other days. She brought up my being abducted once today instead of repeatedly. Not fearfully, and blah, 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 and don't get abducted. Okay, let's go. Let's move on. Kind of thing. She was a little bit more confused about where she was today. A couple times she thought she was in Korea. And I said, no, we're not in Korea. Where are we? And she wasn't able to wrap back around to her knowledge that she is in Iceland, which she has known for several days. I mean, I haven't given her that information. She's given me that information. So we'll see. Maybe her disappointment with the fact that I had not been filling out applications to get a job in the United States, maybe that had affected her a little bit as well. Possible, highly probable. And she was talking about how I could convert a part of the house as an office for consultations when I move back. So that's the kind of day I had. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Friends, if you're still here, hit the thumbs up button so that Facebook knows that you enjoyed this and other people might enjoy it too, and will draw more eyes to the channel. Helps me, helps the channel. Also, if you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button and the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I'm trying to do one a day during this dive into the Tarot of the Holy Light. But after I get back to work in Korea at my job, I won't be able to do daily videos. I'll probably be doing my usual 2 a week. So to get notifications, hit the alarm bell. And comment below. I would really love to hear from you. What do you think? If you want a private reading from me, I have my email address below. You can send me an email and we can work out a reading for you from me. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.